Okay, we've got some green beans here. Summertime in the Northeast is green bean time, and green bean is, everybody says green beans even when the beans aren't necessarily green. There's the ones we have here are obviously green, but we grow purple beans and yellow beans. And
there's different varieties, right? Roma beans.
Oh yeah, there's so many different varieties, and you can get long beans and all kinds, all variety, thyme and nuts and things like that. But the basics of green beans, when they're freshly picked like this, and they still have a tiny bit of the stem on them when they were gently torn off the bush, and you just take that end off. Some people like to take the second end off, the tail off.
I don't think it matters.
I don't think it does either.
When they cook, they're tender enough. They're not going to hurt or anything. But aesthetically wise, they look better when the stem end is picked off.
And these are traditional green beans. What's a haricot vert?
Haricot vert, I guess like a mini green bean, or it's a thinner green bean. See if there's one in here that's more. Nah, they're all pretty thick.
These are pretty. These are Pennsylvania.
More like that.
French green bean here is a Pennsylvania green bean.
That size, and they're usually straight, and yeah, they're a little fancier. I don't know if they're any more difficult to grow, but they tend to be a little bit more expensive. But they're all.
And haricot vert is just French for green bean.
Right. So don't be tricked by fancy languages.
Exactly, it's just a green bean. It's just a green bean.
So we're going to blanch these.
And we talked about blanching when we did asparagus. It's just adding the fresh vegetables right to a little salted water?
Salted to set the color and also for flavor. And I have some water boiling over here.
And do you put in any, does lemon juice keep the flavor bright, or is that an old wives'
I think
tale?
That's an old wives' tale, especially when you're using green vegetables. And these are thick enough. They're going to take a little longer, I think, than the asparagus that we did before to get tender.
And as it continues to cook, it loses more and more of its color.
Color and nutrients are all cooked out.
And yes, most importantly, it's not just a matter of aesthetics and how it looks. It's about the fact that you're letting all the nutrients.
The vitamins they're in the water. What we can do, and I tell people this sometimes, if they know they're going to use something that requires a vegetable stock or some kind of cooking liquid, you're better off using the liquid that you cook the beans in, because at least then the vitamins and nutrients might still be in the water. My mother used to say potato water, which was kind of starchy.
kind of an extreme. But she had convinced her. I guess she thought another potato famine might be coming any day now, and so we had to say potato water.
So about 2 minutes will go on that, and then we'll shock those.
When you say shock, you're just talking about
right into a bowl with ice and water, and that'll stop the cooking process and sort of set the bright green color. And from there, you can refrigerate them and use them later. You can immediately use them right at that time in a salad, or I think we're going to make a potato salad with green beans, and we're going to save a few to put into the soup that we make in a bit too.
Great. We were talking earlier about the way you cut things, and here again these are carrots that we're going to be making some minestrone soup. But what you did is you cut them, and you cut a flat side on them. So you cut this carrot right down the middle, and so then you don't have this, while you're cutting, this rolling thing that's going on all over the place.
And then just to get more of a rough dice, I'll cut it again.
But this is not, science. This is just a rough dice. It's just to show that there's safety things that you can use in the kitchen. Take you only an extra second and can really make a big difference, make it a lot easier for people.
And if that's too much, just do a few at a time.
These you've got celery, onion, and carrot in here, which is the base of
mirepoix. Most soups I start with the same.
Just about every soup has a
basic.
This is a basis.
We're going to add some other vegetables and some greens and tomatoes and garlic and some herbs and the beans and tomatoes at the end. Some pasta that we're cooking. So it's basically just a real fresh vegetable soup with the addition of the beans and pasta.
really make it hearty. And what's the cook time to make little minestrone? I mean, this is probably the most.
I was gonna say if you have once you have
aspect
everything cut, we call it the mise en place or your
everything
prep.
in place. Yeah.
25-30 minutes for a soup wouldn't be impossible. So it's not like your burner's on all afternoon cooking a long stew or.
And you don't need a stock for this.
Nope, water. Or we're gonna talk about the water that is the beans come in. Sometimes it's a little too acidic or too salty or maybe a little tinny, but there's going to be some flavor in there too that will pretty much give the soup its stock base. And by adding the herbs and maybe grate a little cheese on the top at the end, then you get lots of flavor.
Is there any one of these ingredients that that you think of as the part of? I mean, does this make this minestrone sort of Italian soup, or is minestrone the addition of the pasta?
I think it's the addition of the beans and the pasta. Otherwise, it's a vegetable soup. Yeah, I've made it with corn, which is more of an American ingredient. I've put sweet potatoes in it once, which was a nice addition. Mushrooms you can use. We're talking about mushrooms. But pretty much, a vegetable soup made more of a meal by adding the pasta and the beans.
Right, and so all of the, I don't want to say the ends and the leftovers of the vegetables, but if you're using the green pepper and you've got, a couple of pieces maybe this size left over, and you've got half
up the ends,
one zucchini left over, and you've got a couple of this, that, and the other thing. There's no hard and fast rule for what this is. You can just take all of these things and chop them up and throw them in together and have soup.
Yep. I brought some beet tops I thought would be a nice addition. We can
that's interesting because
rather than throw them away.
Yeah, people always don't always, but you go to a restaurant, you get beets, and you get the beet tops, and a lot of cultures are eaten, and of course they've got beautiful color and they're interesting. They've got this square stem, which is unusual in a vegetable.
And pretty.
Yeah. Can also be used, makes a great garnish on a plate too, the addition of the beet tops. And there's no reason why, even if you're in a rush and you're hurried, you can't try and make for you and for your family, even if it's just for you. You can't make your food attractive.
Sure.
When food is attractive, it tastes better. There's my big hint of the day.
If it looks good, it tastes good.
It helps. Well, it helps. It helps. I mean, it can't make bad food taste good, although I think that there's a lot of restaurants that think so.
Right. So what we'll do is we'll start with the basic mirepoix, or the vegetables that we're going to use to start the soup. And again, I'm going to use a blend of actually the olive oil and the canola, just maybe equal parts. Half tablespoon of that, and half tablespoon of this. And this time I want the flavor of the olive oil, but I don't necessarily need all olive oil. So it's a budget thing, but also the canola oil, again, can get heated to a higher temperature. So as we saute this, it's not going to diminish the quality of the olive oil. And once that gets hot, we just start, you don't necessarily want to caramelize it, but get it sweating, softened, and then we'll add the other vegetables.
And that's a term that you hear commonly in a kitchen, is sweating your vegetables, and really it's a matter of adding something that's going to let them start the cooking process, but not water them down, because you want the vegetables to be cooked a certain way. You're not just trying to boil them.
Right. Now you want to get a little heat on them, hot enough so that they start to bring the aromatics out, so they start to smell. But you don't want them to be just simmering in their own liquid. Some soups you do, like you might want to caramelize the onions and the mushrooms for a mushroom soup, because you're going to get more flavor out of the mushrooms. But these vegetables, you want them to kind of hold their own sort of in the soup, so that we don't want to saute them down to nothing.
Right, and we're not going to be pureeing this with that fancy tool. It's the greatest tool in the last 10 years invented.
You could use leftover spaghetti.
You
chop it up. Yep.
Capellini.
Elbow macaroni.
You could use rice if that's what you have.
Rice, actually, leftover cooked rice added at the end gives it a real nice texture and a little bit different flavor, but
this stuff is called ditalini.
I love the name.
Ditalini.
and it's
a little diddly.
it's like a noodle that's been sliced into 100 pieces, but it's perfect bite size for the soup.
Yeah. Cooks really quickly, I would
pretty
imagine.
quick,
Are you
yeah.
going to cook it separate from the soup, though?
I'm going to cook it separate just so that I know that it's controlled as opposed to cooking it in the soup and having the vegetables be done, the pasta not being done.
Let's not add that one to the soup. Let's throw that one away.
So we'll just cook. I'm only going to cook about a cup.
Yeah, because in this soup, it's going to go a long way.
Yeah, it's more of a...
This is already a hearty soup. But minestrone is something that doesn't have to serve hot.
Nope. You can eat it cold.
You can eat it cold. You can eat it like a gazpacho, really. You can eat it room temperature. You can have it as a little side, and then very light, and then have your warm casserole that we're gonna.
Yeah. Or I like to eat soup in the. It seems weird, but soup in the summer, if it's served hot, sounds kind of odd, but it'll make you sweat, which in turn cools you off. So. And
in some cultures, eat soup at lunch, which really gives you a lot of sustenance for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And there's no hard and fast rule. You can make soup for breakfast.
I have
That's meat. That's what's good for you.
I have a question for you. I cut this morning.
Yeah.
And just put it in cold water and set it on the counter, and it's perfectly crisp and fresh.
Yeah, and it can stay that way for a couple of days.
As long as it's not too hot in the kitchen, right?
As long as it's not too hot in the kitchen, and as long as it's not too cold in a lot of air conditioning, because the cold will make the basil get little brown spots on it.
Because I find that basil is the one thing that, when you throw it in the fridge, it tends to bruise itself and get kind of funky.
It does not like to be. It does not like to be cold. And this is you want to, if you're growing basil at home, we'll go over this with Brian at some point. We're going to just take this little nub off of there, and that'll keep it from going to seed. Because this basil has, you see it have a little water burn spot on there right now. All of this is just our leftover stuff from cutting up for the minestrone, and it could be used for vegetable stock or something else, along with some of this
compost.
Along with some of this compost. True. Feed the worms too. Worms have to eat. Oh man.
Yeah, we got a nice casserole.
Yeah, that's got to be hot in the hand. That's not. Wow.
A little juicy. That'll kind of settle in to the vegetables and.
Yeah. So then after you take it out of the oven, let it sit.
Let it sit. Let the juices kind of.
10 minutes
and then go back in and just scoop it out and plate it up. It won't. It's not going to cut like a potato gratin or a casserole like that. But it's more of a.
And it's not a ratatouille because it doesn't have eggplant or a caponata, the basis of those other traditional dishes. But this is certainly beautiful side dish or by itself.
Yeah.
I couldn't eat a pan of that. I don't know about the whole block of cheese. That might be.
Well, again, it's 8 ounces spread over 8 portions, so it's not a ton of cheese. And the additive Parmesan on top is going to give it a little zip and a little salt too. So we got sweat on the onions and the vegetables in here. You can see they've kind of changed, sort of translucent. The onions, not quite as white, so that's pretty much what we're going for.
Is there camera on?
Yeah. And we'll add the peppers. And we'll do a little garlic in here as well.
This is the use of garlic. I mean, garlic can be raw garlic can be a little acrid, can be a little rough. Nice hot weather, you can be sweating it out the next day.
Yep.
So by cooking it, you're really changing the flavor of garlic entirely. I mean, I love raw garlic, but when you cook it, if you roast it in advance, it's much more heavy. I shouldn't say heavy in the negative sense. Aromatic and what's the word I'm thinking of for the roasted flavor?
It's less pungent, and I think it's richer.
It is. It's richer. Yeah.
My dad just made gazpacho, and the recipe he was using called for 3 cloves of raw garlic, and you couldn't eat the soup because it was so strong. And I said, next time try 3 cloves of roasted garlic, or even 6 cloves of roasted garlic, because you're going to get a more mellow flavor. And won't be as sharp. Alright, so we'll put the garlic in. And the press works great, no mess. Basically fine
just
chop.
open it up and give it a whack and all the old stuff comes out of it. It's not like you're really, in general, going to, oh, I guess you could use it for,
You can throw that in on top.
for nuts or something like that.
Oh,
I don't
this?
know. Yeah.
You could probably...
I don't know what else can you use a garlic press for.
I don't know. That's a good question.
I'll try.
Cherry juicer? I don't know.
Putting it. Not much. I don't think that's really it. You got a little bit of it.
I wonder if it would work for...
you got kind of a concassé that comes out.
Yeah. I wonder if it would work for a nugget of horseradish.
Yeah. You do. You get kind of a concassé, which is the tomato, the meat of the tomato, not the skin. It's called for in some dishes.
Yeah, actually that, if you put that and some garlic together, you'd have a little bruschetta, like a spread for some toasted bread.
I'm taking that to this company and seeing if I can make a buck off of it. Oh, that's made it a mess.
Alright, so we got a nice kind of melted vegetable medley in there, and we're going to add our squash.
Cooking all the different things at different times because vegetables...
You want them to still have a texture, and the things that are harder you start with first.
Like the carrots.
The carrots, right? And then the squash is pretty much tender. You know, you don't want it to be hard, but it's gonna, by the time the soup's brought to a simmer, it should be good to go. So we're gonna do garbanzos,
otherwise known as chickpeas.
And I think the liquid tastes okay, so we're gonna add that with the beans.
I see here we got red kidney beans, and we went for the really, in both cases, well, this is Hanover, is a pretty well-known name, White Rose. This is just generic.
Generic, 99 cents a can.
Yeah, I mean, you can probably get them cheaper.
You could probably buy a pound of raw dried beans for 99 to $1.50, whatever, but then you got to cook them, and this is just a quick, simple summer kind of soup, so.
Right.
Put these
So
right
you're going to use
I'm going to use the liquid.
Use the juice.
I think it's going to add a little bit more of a bean flavor. You could just rinse them over a strainer and get that liquid that they're stored in, preserved in.
Right.
If we were going to do a salad, I don't necessarily like that heavy liquid. I would prefer to add my own vinaigrette.
Vinaigrette, right.
Looks like it's going to be about 2 cans of water.
How about herbs for this?
Definitely.
While it's cooking, I mean, is this a...
I love putting fresh basil in at the end. Oregano is good too.
Mm-hmm.
The rosemary I kind of stay away from. It's not so traditional in this kind of soup.
Yeah.
Maybe some thyme, bay leaf if you had it. You want to throw that in there. And the pasta should be...
When the pasta's done, and you don't need to throw it on the wall or any of that crazy stuff.
Make sure it's tender, but not...
You don't want to... Corbin's got a little bit of respect for his fingers himself, and he's sticking his hands in the hot water, which comes from being in a kitchen year in and year out. But in general, that's probably not
the wisest
That's
thing
probably
to
not
do.
the best idea of way to test the doneness of something. But
so once the soup comes to a boil, and the cooks for maybe 4 or 5 minutes, we'll add the pasta, season it up, throw some chiffonade basil in there, and it's pretty much good to go. Maybe a little grated cheese and a slice of bread, and it'll be lunch.
what's a chiffonade?
Chiffonade, yeah, we're gonna do.
Throw a little
The
fancy terms.
The basil's delicate.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like the herbs that we chopped before. You want to be gentle with them, and do a cut. Again, a fancy term for little ribbons. Line up all the basil. I already washed it, so it's nice and clean. Roll it up in a tube, and then you're just going to give it real gentle slices. And you don't want to go back and chop it because it'll start to get brown, and it'll actually, I think, it sort of tastes different too if you overcut it. This way it's nice and fresh. So like if you make a tomato salad and put a little chiffonade basil on, that's kind of a nice
That's nice
presentation.
because let's face it, when people give you a caprese salad, just tomato, mozzarella, and basil, and they give you the whole leaf, what are you supposed to do with that?
Yeah, no.
That's not a. But this is, and this is also, it's beautiful. I mean, it's really, it's almost just garnish, but it's more. It's going to add a tremendous amount of flavor to the soup.
Yeah. And I didn't season it yet. I kind of wait till it comes to boil to test it, especially since we use the liquid from the beans. There's obviously some sodium in there, but it should be pretty much good to go once we have the
Let's see what we have here in the way of sodium. This is dietary carb sodium, 360 milligrams. That's 15%, and garbanzo beans are probably going to be the same.
Wow.
So total fat is 1 gram.
But look at the fiber. Good fiber. Beans are good.
And the protein 7 grams. So yeah, beans are good, and beans are good for you, and beans are inexpensive, and they're a great way to stretch food, and they're available all over the place.
Year round.
The pasta added, the green beans added. God, it's a gorgeous color. Pasta added, green beans added, everything is in there, and
because it didn't cook forever, you still got nice color, and it's
and you got plenty of really got plenty of stock there. That was just the juice from the can, and 2
cups of water.
2 cups of water. And you know, for those people who a little want more, I'll be out more.
I would definitely give it a grating of
little grating of Parmesan.
Should be nice.
Grating of Parmesan. I like it because his idea of a little grating of Parmesan and my idea of a little bit of Parmesan are the same, which is a lot of Parmesan.
And you could even garnish it if you were going crazy.
That's that basil. There's that Life basil logo. And if you are so inclined, you could hit it with a little bit of pepper or a little hot sauce. Or
hot sauce, a squirt of hot sauce would be awesome.
Vietnamese, Cambodian hot sauce, Schwartzy sauce. Or
another thing that people don't think about, but if you have made or bought pesto, is a dollop of pesto in there, swirled around. It's got the cheese, the basil, everything already in it. That just makes the soup, more colorful and adds another fresh summer flavor. So.
Well, I hate to destroy the. Destroy the look of the soup, but girls got to do what a girl's got to do. One more roll. You can taste every vegetable.
That's the
I'm gonna try some more raw.
I think she likes it. Nugget.
And I think this would make you a most popular, if you were to bring this along, most popular guest at a party. And then your green bean, and there's your green bean casserole with a little bit of those beet greens on it. Fantastic.
And all of it's good, room temp, hot. This is even good the next day.
Cold the next day.
The next day cold.
Throw that in an omelet with an egg, and you're good to go.
Yep.
Put it on some bread. Oh, the possibilities are endless. We're not going to get into all those possibilities. We're gonna end it here with another bite of this soup, and we'll see you next week.